Welcome to my channel Sella Buzz. When Robert Taylor was 57 years old, he told people the shocking truth about his marriage to famous actress Barbara Stanwyck. Robert Taylor was born with the name Spangler Arlington Brew on August 5, 1911 in a small town called Philly, Nebraska. He grew up in a tiny town in the middle of America. Taylor was both determined and charming, which helped him later when he became a movie star. His early life was shaped by his strong family and the good values from his small town. This gave him discipline and kept him humble, which was different from many other Hollywood stars back then. This strong foundation showed up in both his work and personal life. He was known for being professional, kind, and dependable throughout his long career that lasted many decades. Taylor's trip to becoming famous started when he moved to Los Angeles and went to the University of Southern California. There, he first studied engineering before he found out he loved acting. During these important years, people first noticed him because he was very good-looking and had a special charm that became his trademark. Taylor got his start in Hollywood when he signed a contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, which was one of the most important movie studios at that time. The studio saw that he had natural talent and could become a big star. His first movies showed he could play many different kinds of roles, from romantic leading men to action heroes. This proved he was really good at adapting to different characters. Unlike many other actors who got stuck playing only one type of role, Taylor could easily switch between different types of movies. He could do drama, romance, historical movies, and war films. This ability helped him stay successful in an industry that changes its mind about stars very quickly. By the 1940s, Robert Taylor had become one of Hollywood's most successful and loved leading men. His acting in movies like Camille in 1936, where he acted with the legendary Greta Garbo, and Waterloo Bridge in 1940 made him famous as an actor who could show deep emotions while also being powerful on screen. His acting style was natural and didn't go overboard with drama, which helped audiences feel connected to his characters like real people. Taylor could show vulnerability, moral strength, and quiet intensity, which made him different from other stars of that time and kept people interested in him. Also, he worked with famous directors and actors from Hollywood's golden age, which showed how respected he was and how willing he was to keep challenging himself with different and difficult roles. As the movie business changed, Taylor showed he was really good at changing with it. He went from playing romantic leads in the 1930s and 1940s to playing more grown-up roles in historical movies and suspense thrillers in the 1950s. He proved that his talent wasn't limited by his age or the type of movie. Important movies like Quo Vadis in 1951 and Ivanhoe in 1952 showed he could play heroic characters with seriousness and dignity. Movies like The House of the Seven Hawks in 1959 showed he could adapt to new movie styles. Even when television became really popular, Taylor successfully made the change. He took opportunities to reach new audiences without giving up the high standards he had set for himself in movies. After dating her for 3 years, Robert Taylor married the famous actress Barbara Stanwyck on May 14, 1939. They had a quiet but elegant wedding in San Diego, California. Their marriage got a lot of attention from Hollywood reporters and the public because both Taylor and Stanwyck were big stars at the height of their fame. People admired them for their talent, how they looked on screen, and their glamorous image. The wedding had both Hollywood style and personal closeness, with only a small number of close friends and trusted people there. One of the most important guests was Marion Marks, who was married to comedian Zeppo Marx from the famous Marx Brothers. She was Stanwyck's matron of honor, which added Hollywood friendship to the event and showed how close the friendships were. In the movie industry at that time, on Taylor's side, Buck Mack was his best man. Buck was a vaudeville performer who had been a close friend, confidant, and personal assistant to Stanwyck for a long time. Mack was also family because he had married Stanwyck's sister, Millie. This made him like a father figure to Barbara and showed how important trust and loyalty were on this special day. Even though they looked like one of Hollywood's perfect couples, the marriage between Taylor and Stanwyck turned out to be complicated and full of problems. Their marriage lasted for almost 12 years, and during that time they tried to balance their busy careers with their personal lives. Living under the constant watching of Hollywood gossip writers often put stress on their relationship. Even so, their home was shared with Anthony Tony Dion, who was Stanwyck's adopted son from her earlier marriage to actor Frank Fay. Tony was a big part of their lives during the marriage, and Taylor took on his role as stepfather seriously. He provided guidance and support, even though their household was dominated by movie schedules and public expectations. But the couple's relationship eventually fell apart. After years of stress and living apart, Stanwyck filed for divorce in February 1951, ending one of the most talked-about marriages in Hollywood of that time. After the divorce, Stanwyck kept custody of Tony, which showed her deep motherly bond with her adopted son. Not long after his divorce, Taylor found love again. In 1952, he met the beautiful German actress Ursula Thiess, who had come to America after becoming famous in European movies. Ursula, who people often said had both elegance and natural warmth, was considered by many to be one of the most beautiful women ever to come to Hollywood from another country. Taylor and Thiess felt an immediate connection. They were drawn together by personal chemistry and understanding the pressures of living in the public eye. After 2 years of dating, they got married on May 23, 1954, in the beautiful setting of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This location showed Taylor's love of the outdoors and the couple's preference for celebrating away from Hollywood's attention. Their marriage was widely thought of as a happy one, marked by real affection, stability, and the joy of raising a family together. Taylor and Thiess welcomed 2 children into their lives, a son, Terrence, born in 1955, and a daughter, Tessa, born in 1959. Taylor loved being a father and often talked about how much happiness his children brought him. He treasured the quiet moments away from movie sets where he could enjoy life as a loving husband and father. Along with their own children, Taylor also became stepfather to Ursula's 2 children from her previous marriage, Manuela and Michael Thiess. By all accounts, Taylor took this responsibility seriously, trying to give them stability and guidance. As they got used to their new life in the United States, the blended family, though not without difficulties, created a household that showed Taylor's deep commitment to the people he loved. But tragedy hit the family in a heartbreaking way. On May 26, 1969, only weeks before Taylor himself would lose his fight with lung cancer, Ursula found the dead body of her son, Michael Thiess, in a West Los Angeles motel room. Michael, who had struggled with personal problems for much of his life, died from a drug overdose. This cut short a life that had been filled with trouble and instability. The sadness was made worse by knowing that Michael had only recently been let out of a mental hospital, where he had spent time trying to recover from his struggles. Michael's problems had been going on for a long time. As early as 1964, he had been sent to a reform school after a very disturbing incident where he tried to poison his father with bug spray. These struggles showed a young man trapped in cycles of pain and instability. This brought sadness not only to his mother but also to Taylor, who had tried to be a guiding presence in his stepson's life. The tragedy of Michael's death coming so close to Taylor's own death added even more sadness to the final chapter of Robert Taylor's life. At 57 years old, Robert Taylor was now a seasoned Hollywood veteran. His hair was silver, but he was still very handsome. He shocked many fans when he chose to speak honestly about his troubled and complicated marriage to Barbara Stanwyck. For years, the two had been one of Hollywood's most glamorous couples. Their pictures were all over movie magazines and newspapers, creating the illusion of a fairy tale romance. But when Taylor looked back, his thoughts weren't covered with nostalgia. Instead, he painted a picture of a marriage that was far from perfect. He called it emotionally suffocating and deeply disturbing at times. "People thought Barbara and I had the dream marriage," Taylor admitted, his voice quiet and almost tired. But the truth was, it wasn't all love and roses. It was something else, something far less pretty. Taylor had been chosen by MGM as the perfect, tall, dark, and handsome leading man. He had lived under the watchful eyes of the press for a long time. His marriage to Stanwyck in 1939 had only made that scrutiny stronger. She was already a major star, a woman of great strength and independence, while he was still finding his place in the studio system. Looking back, Taylor admitted that this imbalance set the tone for much of their relationship. "Barbara was the bigger star when we married," he said directly. She was powerful, respected, and knew how to run her career with an iron hand. I, on the other hand, was still being shaped by MGM, and that difference spilled over into our marriage in ways that outsiders could never see. He went on to describe the home side of their union as something far from peaceful. While the public saw elegant Hollywood parties, perfectly staged photos, and glowing interviews, Taylor suggested that their private life often went into territory that was, in his words, disgusting. Behind closed doors, we weren't Robert Taylor and Barbara Stanwyck, Hollywood's golden couple, he revealed. We were two people who often couldn't stand each other. There were fights, sometimes over the smallest things. She could cut you down with words sharper than any knife. I'd retreat, sulk, sometimes disappear just to keep my sanity. That's not love. That's survival. One of the most shocking parts of Taylor's revelations was his claim that the marriage was sometimes more of a studio arrangement than a real love story. MGM, wanting to preserve the image of its leading man, had pushed Taylor into respectability by pairing him with Stanwyck, a woman who was admired for her professionalism and self-discipline. It wasn't all my decision, Taylor admitted. The studio liked the idea of me with Barbara. It made sense for publicity, for keeping up appearances. I won't say there wasn't attraction. There was, but love is something deeper, something freer. I never felt free in that marriage. According to Taylor, Stanwyck's intense personality often left him feeling overwhelmed. She was older than him, wiser in the ways of the industry, and known for her no-nonsense approach to both work and life. Taylor remembered times when he felt more like her student, or even her employee, than her husband. Barbara wanted control, he stated flatly. In her career, in her home, in our marriage. I was expected to follow along to keep the image polished, and I did for a while, but inside I was miserable. It's disgusting when a marriage becomes more about power than about love. Despite his harsh words, Taylor did not completely dismiss Stanwyck's place in his life. He acknowledged her loyalty, her devotion to work, and her unwillingness to compromise her standards. Yet the warmth one might expect from a husband remembering a great love was missing. Instead, his thoughts were colored with regret and bitterness, suggesting that the years spent in that union had cost him personal happiness. I don't hate her, he clarified. I never hated Barbara, but I hated the way we lived together. It was like living in a beautiful house that felt cold inside. No matter how fine the furniture or how grand the surroundings, it never felt like home. At 57, Robert Taylor's revelations about Barbara Stanwyck not only surprised fans but also stripped away one of Hollywood's most carefully preserved illusions. His words revealed the raw and unglamorous truth about a marriage that for decades had been presented as something to envy. What remained was the image of two stars bound together not by passion, but by duty, appearance, and unspoken pressure to keep the Hollywood dream alive. People think they want the life of a movie star, Taylor said quietly, almost as if speaking to himself. But they don't know what it costs.